13, 2,
6 and 11.
Thank you very much. 6 and 11. Okay, and we go to stats and summary stats and a column. You select the column and you want the mean, the variance, the standard deviation, and anything else you need to select. And you have them all. So here they are. Okay, so that we have no difficulties with. Then I selected 5. So where is my assignment? I lost my assignment. Why did I lose my assignment? Where is it? Here it is. Good. Then I selected 5. Yes. Okay. So the accompanying data represent the pulse rates, beats per minute, of 9 students. So we have the 9 students and we have the pulse rate. So I'm going to copy them. So student 1, so this is problem 5, 76, 60, 60, 80, 72, 80, 80, 68, and 73 from student 1 through student 9. Fine. We're not going to compute all of them, just it says treat the 9 students as a population, which means the standard deviation will be considered for the population. Compute the z-scores for all students. You're going to choose which ones we're going to compute. Compute the mean and standard deviation of these z-scores. Okay. Good. So choose whichever you want, but I have to go to StatCrunch. And I didn't mean that. It closed the whole thing. Okay. So we have to enter these scores. So 76, 60, 60, 80, 72, 80, 80 again, 68, and 73. There better be 9. Yes, they are. We go to stat and then summary statistics, columns, and that's the variable. And we need the mean and the variance. I don't need the variance, I need the standard deviation. Okay, so compute. So I got that the mean, it's the population, so this is mu, 72.11, and the standard deviation, I forgot to do something very important. I forgot to select unadjusted standard deviation. Careful. I didn't need that, but that's fine. Yes, of course. Thank you. Okay, so I want the unadjusted standard deviation. Careful with that. See, it's a totally different situation. Here we divide by 8, and here we divide by 9. It's the population. We have to divide by 9. So sigma is 7.5490168. Okay. Good. So coming back to this. So let's choose which z-scores you want to determine. For which student or students. It's up to you. You decide. Remember the formula for the z-score is the entry that you're going to give me minus the mean and divided by the standard deviation. What did we say? That the mean for z is always, and the standard deviation for z is always. Anyone remembers the mean and the standard deviation for z, for the z-scores? Always. And we use the notation for that. Anyone remembers? Because if I determine all of them and then I determine the mean of the z-scores and the standard deviation of the z-scores, they have to be what? Anyone will like to give it a shot?
But they be mutually exclusive because they're both related to each other, dependent on the.
No, we're talking about, so see, I will get, for this, I will get a Z1, and so on and so forth, a Z9, sorry. So when I enter these in StatCrunch, all these numbers will have a mean, and they will have a standard deviation. But since we're talking about the Z-scores, these are always the same and fixed, and we talked about both numbers. Anyone?
Zero something, 0 or 1.
Excellent. This is always the case. Whenever we talk about Z, we're going to talk about this, and it's normal, with mean 0, standard deviation 1. This is carved in stone. If I don't get this, I have an error somewhere. So no matter what, the mean for Z and the standard deviation for Z, all these numbers, 9 numbers, if I create or determine their mean and standard deviation, I have to get these numbers, carved in stone. So now, which students you would like to determine the Z-score for? There is no need to do it for all, because once we do it for 1 or 2, we understand what we need to do. Which one? Well, let's do 72. So Z for student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 72 minus the mean, 72.11, divided by 7.5490. Careful, you have to put, if you determine this in your head, that's fine, but otherwise you have to put parentheses around the numerator. Do not divide without putting parentheses. Now, if you already write the number, which is what, 71.989, then you don't need to. But if you don't, please remember 72 minus 72.11, close, and then divide by 7.549. So the Z-score for this is, for student 5, is negative 0.0146. And the same way, you can determine the other ones, and if you put them in StatCrunch and determine the mean and the standard deviation, you have to get this. Otherwise, there is an error somewhere. Okay, let's go back. Any questions for me on this? Okay, I also wanted to look at 6. Following data represent the dividend yields of a random sample of 28 publicly traded stocks. Here they are. We don't have to use 28. We can pick the first 2 rows. Compute the 5-number summary. Do we know how to compute the 5-number summary?
Yes.
Do I need to show that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Do we need to show how to determine the upper fence, the lower fence, and test for outliers? If you say yes, then I will copy the first row or the first 2 rows and enter them in StatCrunch.
Can you do that, please?
Sure. So I'm going to copy the first 2 rows, 2.55, 0.27, 0.64, 0.27, 0.06, 2.83, 1.23. I'm going to change the data set and put a 5 in there. Okay. So let's go to StatCrunch, and I need a new table, new data table, and I'm going to enter 2.55, 0.27, 0.64, 0.27, 0.06, 2.83, 1.23, and 5. So when I go to StatCrunch and the summary statistics and columns, variable 1, and I want the Q1, Q3, I want the median. I want the minimum, I want the maximum. Let's see, I want the interquartile range. Do I need anything else? No. Okay, so Q1, 0.27, Q2 is the median, which is 0.935, Q3 is 2.69. The interquartile range, you have to remember the formula is Q3 minus Q1, and yes, I will copy it as 2.42. So in order to determine the outliers, we have to find the upper fence, which is Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range, and the lower fence, which is Q1 minus 1.5 times interquartile range. So I will determine those. Q3, 2.69 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range, I got 6.32. And the other one was Q1, 0.27 minus 1.5 times 2.42. So this is negative 3.36. So the lower fence is at negative 3.36. The upper fence is at 6.32. All these numbers fit in here. There is no outlier. Other questions here?